Hello, everybody, and welcome to On the Margins. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I'm the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain. MBK, it's good to see you.
It's great to see you, as always. We're ready for another one. Good to see you, Sarah, as always.
Yeah, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Well, I work for this company called Coupa, and I've been here for 5 years. We have previously head of procurement at Lululemon, I love procurement. I love supply chain, and so it's always a pleasure to be here and then chat with a fellow supply chain procurement nerd like yourselves.
Yeah, and we've got an exciting episode today because we've got procurement and sourcing expert, VP of Procurement and Supply Chain at WestJet. And we're going to be sharing some valuable insights on navigating some of the complexities. Do you think it's been a little bit, stressful the last couple of weeks? I don't know.
Yeah, just a little bit of uncertainty and a little bit of, we're all just trying to figure it out. And I'm actually in Dubai this week. We had our exec summit here, and everyone, of course, is talking about tariffs, and everyone's talking about what's happening in the world and how to react and how to, provide optionality to our leaders. And we owe it to our companies to provide that optionality, no matter what happens with interest rates. I saw the ECB just reduce their interest rates to continue to stimulate the economy and inflation and of course again the uncertainty in the macro, and everyone's talking about the same things, whether you're in Dubai here in the Emirates or we're talking to a global audience. I think we're all in it together. So
Absolutely. And I think sometimes we get so focused on the negativity, and of course the last couple of weeks have been very difficult, very challenging for sourcing and procurement and supply chain professionals, different tariffs each day and that kind of thing. And so creating a lot of work. But I think there's also some hidden opportunities when it comes to uncertainty and some of the complexities. And we're going to be talking about how to uncover those. But before we bring Danielle up, let's talk about Coupa Inspire, because I'm excited. I am going to be there again this year, and we're going to be doing a meet and greet with the hosts of On the Margins. I think that's us on day 2 during the morning break. So what are you excited about? I mean, talk to us about Inspire.
Yeah, I've been to countless by this point. It's more than 10 for sure. Of course, I've been a customer a few times, and I've been a fan of this company for a while. But Inspire is just a unique opportunity. It's not a sales conference, unlike maybe what you've seen in the past, but it is an opportunity to connect with a community, a real community. We typically get around about 3,000 people there. And it's customers, it's those that are interested in hearing the latest on AI and the platform and what we're working on as a company. And all of our partners are going to be there as well, whether it's partners in the marketplace, whether it's our partners that help us with the deployment and the successful delivery of the value of the platform. It's just a great, unique opportunity. Again, it's not selling. It's really learning, it's connecting, it's growing, it's professional development, it's personal development. I've honestly said I would pay for this myself if my company wouldn't pay for it, which maybe, says it all. But it's an opportunity for you to invest in your own development and of course, bring that back to the companies that you work for and ultimately drive more value. And it's just a unique opportunity. And I highly encourage everyone to attend. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, I think what stood out for me last year that I'm looking forward to again this year was the atmosphere. It was very positive. It was kind of electric. People were very excited to be there and be on site and be networking and talking to fellow customers about how they've implemented, what they've implemented, potential new customers on site, having those conversations. And so I'm really excited about that because I thought that the atmosphere last year was just amazing. And I think you recreate that every year.
Yeah, and it's getting better every year. I mean, and that sounds maybe a little bit too salesy, but it does get better every single year. And every time that I go on the plane back from Inspire, I'm like, there's no way that we can top this. And somehow we always figure it out how to do that. And we've got a great marketing team. And then kudos to the events team and everyone that is working super hard to make it happen. And I think the realization that you always have with these situations is that we're all in this together. And we're all solving very similar problems. And what better way to do that together? We're all in this thing. together practitioners, supply chain finance, IT leaders, legal. There's even, there's all sorts of different folks that show up, and it's just an excellent opportunity. So yeah, I highly encourage you to be there, and I look forward to seeing everyone there for sure.
Well, and also the meet and greet with us. I mean, I can't wait to see everybody. We won't be signing, autographs, but we want to see everybody. We want to talk to everybody. We want your feedback on the show. I mean, I just love meeting people in person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, nothing beats a human connection, right?
Nothing. All right. Well, hopefully we're going to see you there, and stay tuned because our trivia at the end of the show, where you can win Coupa pickleball sets, is going to be about Inspire. So stay tuned. That's going to come at the end of the show. But now it's time to bring Danielle up. So Danielle, welcome to On the Margins.
Hello, Sarah. Great to see you, MVK. Thanks for having me here today.
So great to see you, Danielle. I mean, we've known each other for many years. We have lots of commonalities. I've lived in Canada, and of course, I know you live in Canada, and you're Brazilian, so is my wife. So that country is very near and dear to my heart. And I remember the first time we met that we immediately connected very well. So I'm just so excited you're here, and I know that this is going to be a really great session. So yeah, look forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. So why don't you tell us about yourself, Danielle? Talk to us about who you are, what you do, and tell us a little bit about your role at WestJet.
Yeah, so Daniele Gorla, I'm the Vice President of Supply Chain and Procurement here at WestJet. Joined them coming up 3 years. And my team oversees all third-party spend for the WestJet group of companies. So all directs, indirects, area of spend, end-to-end. They manage all of that, as well as all the fuel operational, not just sourcing, but the operational aspect of jet fuel. And I've got the corporate real estate team as well. So it's a pretty global function. We are the second largest airline in Canada. We have a fleet of about 200 aircrafts, and we fly all over North America. We fly to Europe, we fly to Latin America and in the Caribbean, and we also fly to Asia. So a true global organization with a pretty talented pool of resources here.
Yeah, no, great. It's a great airline. I highly encourage you to use them. And it's not a sales pitch. I mean, I've been a WestJet customer, especially when I was in Canada. I now live in Europe. It's a little harder, but it's a great airline. And yeah, I've always enjoyed the service on the plane for sure. Hey, so one of the questions that obviously we want to ask everyone, especially someone like you with all that experience and your level and how you've been elevating procurement at the companies you work for. But what drove your interest in procurement and strategic sourcing?
It's interesting. I landed in procurement over 2 decades ago. And if I go back to maybe 2000, when I was with the railway, I spent 15 years with one of the largest railway companies here in Canada. Back in those days, they wanted you to really circulate as much as possible, have a variety of experience in different departments and gain that broader knowledge about the organization. So I started in asset management. I did some business development and sales. And one of the moves I made, I landed in strategic sourcing, knew nothing about it, and really quickly realized that in the previous roles I had, in about a year or two, I figured out the job. It was kind of almost afraid to say boring, but it wasn't challenging anymore. And once I landed in sourcing, I was managing most of the indirect categories at the time. Every initiative, every RFP, every negotiation, I felt like it was a new learning opportunity, right? So whether it was technology platforms or learning about the banking industry, credit cards, finance, or benefit solutions, external auditors, like it was so fascinating. And I was always learning, satiating that curiosity and really getting that need for continuous learning. And I fell in love with it. Fast forward 25 years, I felt like it's been really my passion and the core of my career, really. After 15 years with the railway, when I left, I was able to join a telecommunications company, and there we really built, I built a indirect sourcing or a strategic sourcing organization from the ground up. So having the opportunity to hire the talent, to put in place all the processes and policies, or deploy all the procurement technology, and really bring to life a procurement, a strategic sourcing and procurement organization was phenomenal. It was a great experience. And then after almost a decade there, I moved to the aviation industry and I joined WestJet, which will be 3 years this summer.
Yeah,
amazing. And it's just kudos to supply chain and procurement professionals, how we sort of get thrown into opportunities and we have to sort of figure it out. It goes to our innate ability for problem solving. I think everybody who's in supply chain and procurement, strategic sourcing, they have this innate ability for problem solving, which I love. And so I love hearing stories like that, because a lot of people are like, how do you get into these roles? And sometimes it's just sort of where that journey takes you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about the aviation industry. Like, what makes it so complex from a strategic sourcing and supply chain perspective? I mean, I was in logistics. We did aircraft on ground parts. So I know how quick things have to move. So talk to us about some of the complexities.
Yeah, like little did I know when I joined, I had been a customer of WestJet, a corporate customer for many years, was also a really big fan, was a pretty special company here in Western Canada. So was very thrilled to join and help them rebuild, or kind of in the 2022 kind of period. Little did I know how fascinating the aviation industry is, but it is super complex. Like I think we can start by having appreciation to how highly regulated the industry is. Everything from your parts and components and suppliers, they're all certified, whether by FAA, like the agency in the United States, or Transport Canada, or the safety agency in Europe. You can't just switch a supplier or change your parts and components without having them recertified, and that takes months. Sometimes it takes years. So really, really complex when it comes to the regulatory environment. It is also a very extremely very long product life cycles. Like aircrafts are in service for 20, 30, sometimes even 40 years. So your sourcing strategies really need to account for the support of those parts and those repairs for decades long. So it really brings that multi-year strategic kind of lenses and perspective into play. It is a true global and multi-tiered industry. Aircrafts themselves are assembled from millions of parts, and those parts are sourced globally. So it is a challenge to understand that tier 2, 3, or even 4 supply chain, and it is sometimes really impossible. And it makes it for a pretty big complex ecosystem. You have long lead times too. Some of those parts, components, even aircrafts themselves, we're not talking months, we're talking years. If you're talking about putting another book order for new tails, we're talking about 2-3 years to get a big one of those nice Dreamliner 787s.
Wow.
And it's not as easy to react to shifts in demands or kind of ramp up production. So it's a very complex there. It's super high capital intensive and very low margin business. I think from all the industries I've worked for, I didn't appreciate how thin the margins are in the aviation industry. But it gets more complex from there when you're looking at sourcing strategies for, especially on the direct side of the supply chain and the strategic sourcing, the complexity of the parts and components on the aftermarket and the MRO, the maintenance, repair, and overhauls is core to aviation. And to understand how you can get parts from, we call them manufactured by the original OEM, or they can be approved. The PMA parts can be approved by the OEMs, or you can have serviceable parts. It's a very complex ecosystem. And maybe the last thing I would say is there's a very big reliance and dependency on those OEMs and those suppliers. So when you think about Canada, you can only buy aircrafts from either your Airbus or your Boeing. And once you make the decision on that fleet strategy, you don't really have a choice. Like you're either sole sourcing the engines or maybe dual sourcing the engines. And then the components have a very limited ecosystem of suppliers. So that reliance and that dependency creates challenges, especially in an ecosystem like today, when a lot of companies are looking for that ability to pivot and substitute, some of the products that they are using or diversifying their supplier base. Not as easy in the aviation industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I actually was reading an article the other day that one of your peers in the business is actually thinking about, whether or not things should be imported, given the tariffs and where are we importing from, and your industry highly regulated, to your point, not that much competition, and very, very competitive, and so margin. So I can only imagine, and it totally resonates, Daniela, what you're sharing. So how do you then define in such an environment with so much uncertainty and so much constraint? How do you define and implement a sourcing strategy, and maybe share some lessons that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, any uncertainty comes from so many different areas, right? You could be looking at today the trade environment we are looking at. It could be whether you're going through an IPO or a merger and an acquisition, so many things. And I think it starts by your sourcing team really understanding the sources of uncertainty. I recall, like, are there any market shifts? Are there any trends? When I first, probably the first summer here with WestJet, we were launching our Asia market. We announced that we were going to fly to Tokyo. Super exciting. We announced it publicly. We started selling airfares, and then the teams are all behind the scenes, like really spinning their wheels to make it real. Canada was really behind on the recovery past the pandemic time from the US by about a year. And Asia was even further behind. Little did we know that the labor shortages in the market were going to pose such a risk and a threat to us. We couldn't find a ground handler service provider that could support our operations in Tokyo. And was beyond just the normal, labor shortages, everybody knows about it. As we kind of peeled that onion and got closer to the environment there, we learned that the government was mandating that those suppliers were serving the Asian airlines first and meeting their demands before they could go beyond other operators and meet further requirements. So we were risking like not being ready for the launch of that service. So being in tune with those market shifts, connecting with your commercial team, sharing those risks really allows you to understand and categorize those risks. The other one I think we are facing now, like we are looking at a spare engine strategy. So the aircraft has two engines, and those engines have to be removed for scheduled maintenance and repair work, but a lot of unscheduled surprises. Little did I know how many bird strikes and lightning damages aircrafts incur. So it's very important to have that healthy ratio, right, of spare engines. So if you don't know if there are supplier reliability issues in the ecosystem, then you can't foresee those risks and those challenges. Your model is going to be flawed. So we need to know, what are those turnaround times at the shops? Are they 80 days or are they 120 days? So understanding that supplier reliability issue in the ecosystem could be another driver of identifying those risks and categorizing them. And the last one I can call, especially for us in fuel and jet fuel, right? Is there any, whether it's a natural disaster or any transportation risks or disruptions, it could be generated by many things, right? Geopolitical, conflicts, etc. But for fuel, for example, when you're sourcing fuel, yes, cost is a big thing. It's probably the most expensive line item on our operating expenses. But is the security of supply guaranteed there? So our teams need to look at, if that pipeline gets disrupted, do I have the opportunity to bring that by rail? Can we chuck that in? So we're doing a sourcing strategy there. We need to look at the broader picture to understand that resilience. So really understanding those risks, categorizing them, I think sets the foundation. It starts right there. But the other thing that really, I believe, brings a lot of strengths to organizations is having those very strong strategic supplier relationships, not the tactical, not the transactional, but true collaborative supplier relationships, very transparent, very open. During the pandemic areas, we were managing our supplier supply chain. The electronic chip shortages in those days, we had to have the influence that the manufacturer was going to ship those chips to the manufacturer and guarantee that they were going to be used to produce products for us. Like, it was that kind of complex. And for us here with the aviation, it is the same thing. Like, you would be surprised how far that trust, that partnership, that goodwill with your suppliers might influence them to prioritize you when they're trying to overcome those uncertain times. So strong partnerships have been really, I guess, a very strong tool to help you navigate those uncertain periods. The other thing I've learned here really quickly, it's the need for those flexible contract models, like whether it is your flexible terms and conditions, whether it is incenting your suppliers to perform even during those times of uncertainties. If you think about a period where nobody was flying and aircrafts were grounded, a lot of those contracts are based on the cycles you're putting on those engines and the cycles that you're putting on those aircrafts. So we had to revisit a lot of those and build a forward-looking kind of environment where if you're up or if you're down in your volumes, there is no a penalty sort of environment, but there is more of an incentive and a flexible environment there. So the contract flexibility is definitely very critical. But
this
one
is
thing
fascinating. I don't mean to interrupt, but this is
absolutely
fascinating. I fly quite a bit. There was a couple of things that you said there that I was like, ooh. But then also, like, thinking about the security of fuel and components and making sure that your supply chain is secure as well, because that's, part of, I would assume, those regulations and things, and not necessarily something that we think about every day. But MVK, sorry, I totally jumped in here.
No, it's all good. I mean, that's why this is organic and this is how it should flow. So I love it. But Danielle, I think the red thread for me, or the takeaway, is you really understand your business.
Yeah.
And, and I think that the best practitioners, and I know you a little bit, and I know you're doing a great job there at WestJet and in your past as well. But, you really need to understand, how does your company make money, and what is critical for business continuity. And I know you understand it really well. So I could listen to what you were just talking about. I mean, it's like almost like a masterclass in procurement and supply chain. So and it resonates to any industry. Yeah? It's not just in WestJet, but it's how does your company make money, and what is critical, and how do you ensure business continuity? So maybe the question that I want to raise here is, are there any hidden opportunities to gain, what we would call like a strategic or competitive advantage? Because that's of course what you're trying to drive when there is so much uncertainty, and also of course economic turbulence, and what are they, and then how can procurement and sourcing work together to uncover those?
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like, industry agnostic, if I'm to think about competitive advantages, like the sourcing and supply chain teams, they cannot do anything if they're in the dark, right? So I think one of the key things here is to really leverage technology, leverage data to really be able to drive those proactive decision making, and to really be able to adapt to whatever change in the supply chain ecosystem. You would have, if you would have known that in my telecom days, like we had the opportunity to launch an entire suite of Coupa modules. So the team really had that visibility on the data analytics, the sourcing, the contract management lifecycle, all the way through P2P and beyond on supplier risk and performance. Having that granularity of visibility, even back from your ERP foundation, really enable them to make those very strategic decisions, to do scenario planning, to look at the different outcomes depending on the kind of crisis you are managing through, And I will tell you this, we're not there yet, quite yet here at WestJet. We're kind of halfway through the Coupa implementation, and the team is mature, the team is sophisticated, and they are frustrated. They are hungry for that data. They are hungry for that granularity. You're talking, the current trade environment we're looking into and living in. You need to understand where your product's being sourced, and that line item on your transactions, and not having access to that is really a detrimental thing to the organization. So I think that continued utilization of technology, we're trying to introduce AI and really be smarter about the work that the team is doing. So they're not working harder, they are working smarter. That investment in technology, that investment on different platforms, your supply chain control tower, your P2P stack, I think it is really a benefit, and it's a true advantage to enable that agility, to enable that ability to react to whatever crisis and make smart data-driven decisions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think technology can really provide a lot of those hidden opportunities, I think, right? If we use it properly, if we use it strategically, and we manage the data that's going in and out of it, because obviously we can only make decisions on good data and not the bad data. So one last question for you before you go. What do you think is one thing sourcing and procurement leaders can start doing right now to build resilience in the face of some of this uncertainty and economic turbulence?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I think that resilience comes from that little muscle we've been flexing all along, right? Like if you are a procurement and supply chain professional, that's all we do. That's where we shine. We've been fighting forever to have a seat at the table, to really earn that title of trusted advisor to our business partners, to prove our value. I don't think procurement and supply chain professionals have wasted any crisis along the way. So it is important to, I think, trust the talent you have, revisit your processes, really even encourage the adoption of technology, because a lot of times you have it, but you're not fully utilizing the capability. So maximizing, optimizing that adoption is really important. But resilience is a big thing. And I think investment in resilience pays off a lot more than the immediate cost saving opportunity. So to really maximize that opportunity to create that resilient supply chain, create that resilient sourcing team, and really take these times of turbulences and crisis to an opportunity for us to continue proving the value that supply chain and procurement brings to organizations is really the key, right? And we are masters at it. I think everybody knows how to fasten your seatbelts and go through those turbulent times with calm and confidence. And there'll be blue skies and sunshine on the other end. It might be temporary. Definitely in the aviation industry, we don't take a break. But if it's fast-paced, it's exciting, and I think that's what we do best. We manage crisis and turbulence. So focus on that resilience. Focus on the core of what we do, and I think we can really take this opportunity to raise the value of supply chain and procurement across the organization.
I love that advice, and what a great note to end on before we go into trivia. Danielle, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you all for having me. It was a pleasure. We could be here all day talking.
All day.
But maybe next time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, it's trivia time. Everybody get ready because we are giving away Yes, so we are giving away a Coupa pickleball set to the first person that gives us the correct answer to this question. So the question is, what is the best reason to attend Coupa Inspire 2025? A, all the amazing people you'll meet. B, the inspiring speakers and breakout sessions. C, customer training opportunities. D, the community celebration. And E, all of the above. MVK, while we wait for all of those answers to come in, what would be your answer on this one?
Yeah, it's a bit. It's hard to pick any of them, to be honest. I would probably go for all of the above, but I don't want to jinx it. But yeah.
Yes. Well.
But why don't you enlighten us, Sarah? Is it time? Can we get the answer?
I think I need a drum roll. All right. The correct answer for anybody who put their answer into the comments is E. So the first person that gave us E as the correct answer will win a Coupa pickleball set. So make sure to reach out to us, but also check your LinkedIn messages because we will be reaching out to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you haven't registered for Coupa Inspire 2025, now is the time. Do not wait. We're going to drop the registration link in the chat or go to coupainspire.com for more information and to sign up. MVK, it's been a pleasure as usual. Danielle was fascinating. So we'll see you all again next time.